I'm Amber Michal, 28, and until last Tuesday, I was just another receptionist at Horizon Technologies, watching opportunities pass me by. I learned American Sign Language years ago from my deaf cousin, never imagining it would change my life. That morning started like any other, preparing the lobby for important visitors, straightening my nameplate, rehearsing my welcome script. I had no idea that signing a simple greeting would catch the COI and completely transform my career path. Before I tell you what happened that day, let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss my story's unexpected ending. Let me back up and explain how I even knew sign language in the first place. When I was 14, my cousin Taylor lost her hearing after a severe case of meningitis. Our family was devastated, but Taylor's resilience amazed all of us. While everyone else was still processing the shock, I made a decision. I was going to learn American Sign Language so Taylor would never feel isolated at family gatherings. What started as learning basic phrases from library books turned into a passion. I took ASL classes throughout high school and college, eventually becoming fluent enough to have deep conversations with Taylor. We developed a special bond. She taught me nuances of deaf culture that textbooks never covered, and I became her interpreter at family events when professional help wasn't available. After college, where I earned my communications degree, I landed what was supposed to be a starter position at Horizon Technology. If you're not familiar, Horizon is one of those cutting-edge tech companies that everyone wants to work for. Sleek glass offices, free snacks, ping-pong tables in the break rooms, and a reputation for innovation that attracts top talent from around the country. For a communications graduate like me, it seemed like the perfect launchpad. The plan was simple: start at reception, network with the right people, and work my way into the marketing or communications department within a year. That was 3 years ago. The reality of corporate America hit hard. Horizon's culture was more competitive than I'd anticipated. Everyone was protective of their positions, department transfers were rare, and despite my degree and growing knowledge of the company, I remained Amber at the front desk. My applications for internal positions were met with vague responses about waiting for the right opportunity or needing more experience. My direct supervisor, Jessica Barrett, was pleasant enough on the surface but made it clear that her priorities were impressing upper management, not mentoring her staff. She had a knack for taking credit for her team's ideas while deflecting blame for any issues. I'd learned to document everything and keep my head down. As for our CO, Richard Hammond, he was something of an enigma. Unlike the stereotypical tech CO with hoodies and sneakers, Hammond was old-school tailored suits, precise language, and high expectations. Employees rarely saw him outside of company-wide meetings, and when he walked through the lobby, most people tensed up. He had a reputation for being demanding but fair, with little patience for incompetence or excuses. By my 3rd year at Horizon, I was growing increasingly frustrated. My student loans weren't getting any smaller, and my resume showed no progression despite consistently positive performance reviews. I'd started applying for positions at other companies, but the job market was tight. The economic uncertainty had everyone clinging to stable employment, making competitive positions even harder to land. The company itself was going through changes too. Rumors of new strategic directions and potential partnerships had everyone on edge. There had been a few rounds of restructuring, corporate speak for layoffs, and though the reception team had been spared, the atmosphere was tense. Everyone was trying to prove their value, and I was no exception. My mornings had developed into a predictable routine. I'd arrive at 7:30 a.m., half an hour before the official start time, to prepare the lobby for the day. I'd check the visitor log, prepare any necessary badges, and make sure the reception area was immaculate. First impressions matter, and as the front-facing representative of Horizon, I took that responsibility seriously despite my career frustrations. As the receptionist, I was responsible for greeting all visitors, directing calls, managing deliveries, and handling basic administrative tasks. We used a sophisticated visitor management system that sent automatic notifications to employees when their guests arrived, but the personal touch, a warm greeting, offering water or coffee, making small talk while they waited. That was all me. I prided myself on remembering returning visitors' names and details about them. It wasn't the career I'd imagined, but I was determined to excel at it. What I didn't realize was how one ordinary Tuesday would completely change the trajectory of my career at Horizon Technologies. That Tuesday started like any other. I arrived at 7:30, swept my badge at the security gate, and nodded to Carl, the security guard who'd been with the company even longer than I had. "Morning, Amber," he said, sliding a clipboard toward me. "But a big day ahead. VIP visitors coming in for Hammond." "Oh, I don't see anything on the schedule," I said, checking the visitor management system on my phone as I signed the entry log. Carl shrugged. "Just got the alert this morning. Some partnership thing. Very hush-hush. Great." Last-minute VIP were always stressful, especially when they were meeting with Hammond himself. I quickened my pace to the lobby, mentally running through my preparation checklist. The email was waiting in my inbox, sent at 6:15 a.m. from Jessica, *urgent. VIP visitors from Gallaudet Innovations arriving at 10 a.m. for meeting with Hammond and executive team. Prepare main conference room and ensure NDA forms are ready. These visitors are priority level. Refreshments to be arranged by catering already notified. Forward visitor details immediately upon arrival, Gallaudet Innovations. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place it. A quick search revealed it was a technology company that specialized in accessibility solutions, with particular focus on innovations for the deaf and hard of hearing communities. That explained the name. Gallaudet University was the world's only university designed specifically for deaf and hard of hearing students. By 8 a.m., the office began filling with the usual morning crowd. The marketing team always arrived early, caffeine in hand, already talking about metrics and campaign adjustments before they'd even reached their desks. The engineering team trickled in later, many with headphones already in place, preparing for a day of focused coding. At 8:30, Jessica appeared at my desk, her expression more tense than usual. "Amber, did you get my email about today's visitors?" She drummed her manicure nails on the counter. "Yes, I'm preparing everything now. The conference room is being set up, and I've got the NDA ready," I assured her. "This is extremely important," she emphasized, lowering her voice. "Hammond has been working on this partnership for months. These people are developing some groundbreaking accessibility technology that could be integrated into our platforms. I understand. I'll make sure everything is perfect," I promised. Jessica gave me a tight smile. "See that you do." Hammond himself might be greeting them. "Everything has to be flawless." She walked away, already texting furiously on her phone. As the morning progressed, I noticed unusual activity among the executive team. The CTO arrived early, a rare occurrence, and headed straight to the main conference room with an IT specialist who was carrying extra equipment. The chief marketing officer, who typically worked from home on Tuesdays, came in looking particularly polished. Whatever this meeting was about, was clearly significant. At noon, I took my lunch break, joining my work friend Marcus in the cafeteria. "So what's with all the executive shuffling today?" he asked, unwrapping his sandwich. "Some big meeting with a company called Gallaudet Innovations," I explained. "They do accessibility tech, particularly for deaf users." Marcus nodded. "Makes sense with Hammond's new technology for all initiative. Word is he wants to expand our user base to be more inclusive." He took a bite of his sandwich and studied me. "You seem more stressed than usual." I sighed. Jessica made it clear this is a make-or-break meeting, and apparently Hammond might be doing the greeting himself. "The elusive CEO emerges from his tower," Marcus joked. "Seriously though, you'll be fine. You're the best receptionist they've ever had. Not that they appreciate it," he added. "Thanks," I said with a weak smile. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm ever going to get out from behind that desk." "You will, Marcus. The right opportunity just hasn't come up yet." If only I'd known how prophetic those words would be. When I returned to the lobby, the transformation was complete. Fresh flower arrangements had appeared on the side tables. The usual water dispenser had been replaced with an elegant tray of bottled water and glassware. Even the lighting seemed somehow more flattering. At 9:45, Jessica reappeared, now accompanied by Hammond's executive assistant, Diane. "They're en route," Diane informed us, checking her tablet. 4 visitors total. Michael Chen, their Chief Innovation Officer, Dr. Sarah Lawson, Head of Research, James Patel, Business Development Director, and Ella Winters, UX Design Lead. Jessica turned to me. "Remember, these are VIP. Use their titles when you greet them. Have them sign the NDA before they're escorted upstairs. Diane will take them to the conference room." I nodded, feeling the pressure mounting. For the next 15 minutes, I checked and rechecked everything. Badge printer working. Check. NDA laid out with pens. Check. Visitor system updated with all names. Check. At precisely 10 a.m., the front doors opened, and 4 professionally dressed individuals entered the lobby. Little did I know that this moment would change everything. The group walked in with a confident air of executives who were used to important meetings. I recognized them from the brief profiles Diane had shown me. Dr. Sarah Lawson led the way, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair in a tailored navy suit. Behind her came James Patel and Ella Winters, both carrying sleek leather portfolios. Bringing up the rear was Michael Chen, a man in his late 30s with rectangular glasses and a modern charcoal suit. I stood and offered my most professional smile. "Good morning and welcome to Horizon Technologies." I began with my practiced greeting. "I'm Amber Mishaw. We're delighted to have Gallaudet Innovations visiting today." Dr. Lawson stepped forward. "Thank you, Amber. We're looking forward to the meeting." As the group organized themselves, I noticed something interesting. Michael Chen turned to Dr. Lawson and began moving his hands in what I immediately recognized as American Sign Language. His movements were fluid and natural. This wasn't someone who had learned a few basic signs. He was clearly proficient, and from what I could gather, he was asking about the meeting room location. Dr. Lawson began to respond with less confident signs when Michael turned slightly and noticed me washing them. I made a split-second decision. Without thinking about it too deeply, I signed directly to him. "Hello, welcome to Horizon Technologies. My name is Amber. Would you prefer to communicate in ASL?" The change in Michael's expression was immediate and striking. His professional veneer gave way to genuine surprise, then visible relief. His hands moved quickly in response. "Yes, thank you. I'm deaf. My colleagues are wonderful, but signing all day is tiring for them." I smiled and continued signing. "I understand. My cousin is deaf. I'd be happy to communicate with you in ASL. Is there anything specific you need for the meeting?" The other visitors were now watching our exchange with expressions ranging from surprise to appreciation. Michael signed back. "This is unexpected and wonderful. Would you happen to know if there's a visual display for presentations in the meeting room? Audio-only presentations can be challenging." I nodded and signed. "Yes, there's a full digital display system. All our conference rooms are equipped with visual presentation capabilities." By this time, Dr. Lawson was looking at me with undisguised approval. "You sound beautifully," she commented. "We usually have to bring an interpreter to meetings. I learned from my cousin," I explained, speaking for the benefit of everyone while continuing to sign for Michael. "I've been signing for about 14 years now." Michael signed something with a grin that made me laugh. "What did he say?" James Patel asked curiously. "He said he wishes all companies had a signing receptionist, and that Horizon is already making a good impression," I translated, then turned back to all of them. "I do need to have each of you sign our standard non-disclosure agreement before the meeting." As they completed the paperwork, I noticed several of my coworkers passing through the lobby were staring at my signing with surprise. Ryan from accounting actually stopped walking mid-stride when he saw me communicating fluently with Michael. I'd worked with these people for 3 years, yet none of them knew about this skill I possessed. It wasn't something that came up in casual office conversation, and truthfully, no one had ever asked much about my life outside work. After collecting the signed NDA, I called Diane to let her know the visitors had arrived. While we waited, Michael signed a question about how long I'd worked at Horizon, and we chatted briefly about the company. His signing was expressive and had some regional variations I wasn't familiar with, but we understood each other perfectly. When Diane arrived to escort them to the conference room, Michael handed me a small notepad where he'd written, "Thank you for making me feel welcome. Most people get uncomfortable when they realize I'm deaf." I quickly wrote back, "It was my pleasure. Good luck with your meeting." As the group walked away toward the elevators, I sat back down at my desk, feeling a small glow of satisfaction. It had been months since I'd used my ASL skills for a meaningful interaction outside of visits with my cousin. I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed the elegance and expressiveness of sign language. I returned to my regular duties, answering calls and sorting mail, assuming the unexpected moment had passed. I had no idea that a pair of observant eyes had been watching the entire exchange from the second-floor balcony that overlooked the lobby. About 20 minutes after the Gallaudet team left for their meeting, my desk phone rang with an internal call. "Reception, this is Amber speaking." "Amber, it's Jessica." Her voice sounded strange, a mixture of urgency and something else I couldn't identify. "I need you to come to the main conference room immediately. Bring your notepad." The conference room, but who will cover the desk? We never left reception unattended during business. "I've already called Ryan to cover. Come now." Fourth floor, main conference room. She hung up before I could ask any questions. Confused and slightly concerned, I grabbed my notepad and pen, quickly explained the situation to Ryan from accounting, who had just arrived looking equally puzzled, and headed to the elevators. As the elevator climbed, my mind raced. Had I done something wrong with the visitors? Was there a problem with the NDA? I mentally reviewed the entire interaction, but couldn't think of any mistake. When I reached the conference room, Jessica was waiting outside the door. Her expression was unreadable. "What's going on?" I asked. "The CEO saw you signing with the visitor," she said in a low voice. "He was on the second-floor balcony and watched the whole interaction." My stomach dropped. "Was that inappropriate?" I asked, suddenly worried. "Inappropriate? Quite the opposite." Jessica's professional mask slipped for a moment, revealing what I now recognized as barely contained excitement. "They need an interpreter. Their usual one canceled last minute, and the meeting is too important to reschedule." I stared at her in disbelief. "And they want me? Hammond specifically asked for you after seeing you communicate with Mr. Chen." Jessica straightened my collar slightly. "This is a tremendous opportunity for the company. A chance to show our commitment to accessibility and inclusion." What she didn't say, but what hung in the air between us, was that this was also a tremendous opportunity for her. Having a team member step up in such a visible way would reflect well on her management. "But I'm not a certified interpreter," I protested. "I'm fluent conversationally, but business and technical terms are different." Jessica's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Hammond specifically requested you. Are you saying you can't do it?" The challenge was clear. In the corporate world, "I can't" was rarely an acceptable answer, especially when the request came from the CEO. "I'll do my best," I said finally, straightening my shoulders. Jessica nodded approvingly. "That's what I told them you'd say. Remember, this reflects on all of us in administration." She pushed open the door to the conference room. The scene inside made my heart race. Around the large oval table sat the entire executive leadership team of Horizon Technologies, people I normally only saw in company-wide meetings or passing through the lobby. At the head of the table was Richard Hammond himself, his piercing gaze now fixed directly on me. The Gallaudet team sat along one side of the table. Michael Chen looked up as I entered, his expression shifting to one of pleased recognition. Hammond stood. "Miss Misha, thank you for joining us. It seems you have a skill that could be very valuable to this meeting." His voice was measured and authoritative. Mr. Chen's interpreter had a family emergency, and we were about to resort to typed communication, which would have significantly slowed our discussion. He gestured to an empty chair positioned between the two groups. "Would you be willing to interpret for this meeting? Dr. Lawson tells me your signing is excellent." All eyes in the room turned to me. I felt a momentary panic. This was far outside my job description and comfort zone. I wasn't a professional interpreter. What if I made a mistake that affected the potential partnership? But then I caught Michael's eye. He signed subtly. "No pressure. Any help is better than none." I took a deep breath. I'd be happy to help, Mr. Hammond. I should mention that I'm not a certified interpreter, but I'll do my absolute best. Hammond nodded once, seemingly satisfied with my honesty. That's all we can ask. Please have a seat. As I settled into the chair, our Chief Technology Officer, David Lin, was in the middle of explaining Horizon's current platform capabilities. I began interpreting his words into ASL for Michael, focusing intently on accuracy. The first challenge came quickly: technical terminology that I'd never needed to sign before. When Lin mentioned integrated API functionality, I hesitated for a split second before fingerspelling API and then using signs that conveyed the concept of integration and function. Michael nodded understanding and responded with his own comments about compatibility requirements. As I interpreted his signs into spoken English for the room, I was acutely aware of Hammond watching me closely. As the meeting progressed, I began to understand why this partnership was so important. Gallaudet Innovations had developed sophisticated technology that made digital content more accessible to deaf and hard of hearing users, technology that could be integrated across Horizon's platforms, potentially opening our products to an entirely new market segment while also fulfilling Hammond's new accessibility initiative. It was during a discussion about implementation timelines that I learned Michael wasn't just any executive, he was actually the co-founder of Gallaudet Innovations and the primary architect of their most groundbreaking technologies. His personal experience as a deaf technologist had informed their entire approach to accessibility. The meeting had been underway for about 40 minutes when a significant moment occurred. Our Chief Financial Officer made a comment about the prohibitive costs of implementing full accessibility features across all platforms at once, suggesting a phased approach that would delay some key features. Michael's response was passionate and technical. As I interpreted, I realized I was conveying important information that might otherwise have been lost or diminished in text-based communication. Michael explained how partial implementation would actually increase overall costs and reduce effectiveness, using specific examples from previous clients. Hammond leaned forward, his interest visibly heightened. So you're saying our standard phased approach would be counterproductive in this case? After I interpreted this question, Michael nodded emphatically and signed a detailed explanation about technology integration and user adoption patterns. I interpreted his response, careful to maintain both his technical points and the conviction behind them. Hammond turned to the CFO. Jeff, I think we need to reconsider our implementation approach based on Mr. Chen's expertise. The meeting continued with increasing engagement from both sides. I fell into a rhythm, my initial nervousness giving way to focused concentration. This was challenging but deeply satisfying work, far more engaging than answering phones and greeting visitors. When the meeting finally concluded after nearly 2 hours, Hammond stood and addressed the room. I think we've made excellent progress today, thanks to Miss Mitchell's unexpected skill set. He nodded in my direction. We've been able to have a much more productive conversation than I anticipated given the circumstances. As the room began to clear, Dr. Lawson approached me. That was impressive work, Amber. Have you considered professional interpretation? Not really, I admitted. It's always been more of a personal skill for my cousin. Michael joined us and signed. You have a natural talent. Thank you for stepping in today. I signed back. It was my pleasure. I hope it helped. More than you know, he replied with a smile. As I gathered my notes, Jessica appeared at my side, beaming with an enthusiasm I'd never seen her direct at me before. That was remarkable, Amber, truly remarkable. We should get you back to reception now, but I'll make sure Mr. Hammond knows how quickly you stepped up. I nodded and followed her out, still processing what had just happened. Something had shifted, I could feel it. For the first time in 3 years, I'd been seen as more than just the receptionist. Little did I know, the real drama was just beginning. The next morning, I arrived at work to find an email from Jessica sent at 11:42 p.m. the previous night. Meeting with Gallaudet continues tomorrow at 9 a.m. Hammond requested you attend again as interpreter. Ryan will cover reception. Be prepared for technical discussions. Business attire required. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Yesterday had been unexpected, a one-time emergency situation. Now it seemed I was being pulled into a second high-level meeting, one I would have time to prepare for. I spent the before work researching technical ASL signs related to software development and accessibility. There were specialized signs for many tech concepts I hadn't known, and I frantically tried to memorize as many as I could. At 8:55 a.m., I arrived at the same conference room, now dressed in the one business suit I own, reserved for interviews and special occasions. The room was already filling with executives and the Gallaudet team. Michael spotted me and waved me over. "Good morning," I signed. "I've been studying technical signs, but please be patient if I need clarification." He smiled and signed back. "Don't worry. Most interpreters struggle with tech vocabulary. Just ask if you need me to slow down or repeat anything." Hammond entered the room last, nodding to me as he took his seat. "Miss Misha, thank you for assisting us again today. Let's begin." This meeting was even more technical than yesterday's. The discussion focused on the actual integration of Gallaudet's technology with Horizon's platforms. Our lead software architect presented a detailed breakdown of our current accessibility features and limitations. As I interpreted his rapid-fire explanation, I occasionally had to ask him to pause while I clarified a concept with Michael. Rather than showing annoyance at these brief interruptions, Hammond seemed impressed by my commitment to accuracy. When Michael responded with equally complex technical explanations, I carefully translated them, sometimes asking for clarification on signs I wasn't familiar with. About an hour into the meeting, a crucial moment occurred. David Lin was explaining our user authentication system when Michael's expression changed. He signed rapidly, with evident concern. I interpreted that authentication process creates a significant barrier for deaf users, especially those who rely on video communication. The system would disconnect during identity verification, forcing users to restart the entire process. Lin looked confused. But our testing hasn't shown any issues with the authentication flow. After I interpreted this, Michael signed an explanation about how deaf users often have video relay services running simultaneously with other applications, and how the specific sequence Lin described would create conflicts with those services. As I translated this detailed explanation, I could see the realization dawn on Lin's face. "I see the problem now. We never tested that specific scenario." Hammond leaned forward. "This is exactly why this partnership is valuable. We're missing critical user experiences in our testing." He turned to Michael. "How would you recommend we modify the authentication process?" What followed was a technical discussion that stretched my interpretation skills to their limits. Michael suggested specific changes to the authentication sequence that would accommodate users with video relay services without compromising security. Our technical team asked detailed follow-up questions, which I interpreted as accurately as possible. At one point, Michael used a sign I wasn't familiar with in a technical context. Rather than guessing, I asked him to clarify. "Sorry, could you explain that sign? I'm not familiar with it in this context." He nodded appreciatively and finger-spelled the term, then explained it was a specialized sign used in deaf tech communities for a particular type of software interface. I thanked him and accurately conveyed the concept to the room. During a brief break, Hammond approached me directly, something that would have been unthinkable just days before. "Miss Michelle, your honesty about your limitations is refreshing. Many people would have faked their way through rather than asking for clarification." "Thank you, sir," I responded, surprised by the direct praise. "I believe accuracy is more important than appearing to know everything." He nodded thoughtfully. "A philosophy more people should adopt." "Where did you learn sign language so thoroughly?" I explained briefly about my cousin Taylor and how what started as a family necessity became a passion. "Interesting," he said. "And yet you work as a receptionist." The statement hung in the air, neither a question or a criticism, but an observation that made me uncomfortably aware of the gap between my skills and my position. Before I could respond, we were called back to continue the meeting. The final hour of the meeting focused on implementation timelines and resource allocation. Throughout this discussion, Michael became an active contributor rather than just a recipient of information. Through my interpretation, he identified potential pitfalls and suggested alternative approaches based on Gallaudet's experience with similar integrations. When the meeting finally concluded, Hammond stood and addressed the room. "This has been extraordinarily productive. I believe we have the framework for a partnership that will benefit both companies significantly." He turned to the Gallaudet team. "We'll have our legal team draft an initial agreement based on today's discussion for your review by the end of the week." After formal handshakes and goodbyes, Michael approached me one last time and signed, "You've made these meetings possible. Most companies we visit scramble with typed notes and awkward communication. You've shown that Horizon takes accessibility seriously, not just in your products but in your actions." I thanked him sincerely, feeling a sense of professional satisfaction I hadn't experienced in years. As the room cleared, I noticed Jessica hovering nearby, clearly waiting to speak with me. Her expression was an unusual mixture of admiration and calculation that immediately put me on guard. "That was impressive work, Amber," she said, her voice carrying just slightly louder than necessary, ensuring others could hear her praise. "I always knew you had potential beyond the front desk." I thanked her politely, noticing how different this effusive praise was from our usual interactions. "Why don't you take lunch now?" she suggested. "I'm sure you could use a break after all that interpreting." "We can discuss this more this afternoon." As I headed to the cafeteria, still processing the morning's events, I had no idea that Jessica was already crafting an email to the executive team, an email that would set in motion the next unexpected turn in my suddenly complicated career at Horizon Technologies. The rest of the day passed in a blur of routine reception duties and congratulatory comments from coworkers who had heard about my unexpected role in the Gallaudet meeting. By the time I left work, I was both exhilarated and exhausted. The following morning, I arrived to find an email from Hammond's executive assistant in my inbox, thanking me for my assistance with the Gallaudet meetings and noting that my contribution had been invaluable to the progress of this important partnership. I was still smiling about this acknowledgement when Marcus appeared at my desk, coffee in hand. "Someone's the talk of the office," he said, sliding a cup toward me. "Extra shot, you earned it." "Thanks," I said, accepting the coffee gratefully. "It's been a weird couple of days." "Weird good, from what I hear." Marcus leaned in conspiratorially. "Word is Hammond himself praised your work in the executive meeting yesterday afternoon." Before I could respond, my computer pinged with a new email notification. It was a company-wide message from Jessica with the subject line, "Recognizing hidden talent at Horizon." Curious, I opened it and began reading. "Team, I wanted to share a success story that demonstrates our commitment to recognizing and developing talent within Horizon Technologies. As some of you may have heard, our administrative assistant Amber Michaud recently assisted with interpretation during our meetings with Gallaudet Innovations, when we discovered she was proficient in American Sign Language. As her supervisor, I've always encouraged Amber to develop her skills and look for opportunities to contribute beyond her basic duties. When I learned about her sign language abilities during a previous professional development review, I made note of this unique skill that might benefit the company someday. When the opportunity arose with our Gallaudet visitors, I immediately thought of Amber and recommended her to the executive team as a potential resource. Her willingness to step outside her comfort zone exemplifies the initiative we value at Horizon. This is a reminder to all managers to continuously discover and nurture the hidden talents of your team members, as you never know when those skills might become valuable assets to our company. Jessica Barrett Administrative Services Manager I stared at the screen in disbelief. Jessica had never known about my ASL skills. We'd never discussed it in any review. She certainly hadn't recommended me to the executive team. Hammond had requested me after seeing me sign with Michael. The entire email was a fabrication designed to take credit for my moment in the spotlight. "You okay?" Marcus asked, noticing my expression. "You look like you just swallowed something." Wordlessly, I turned my monitor so he could read the email. "Wow," he said after saying the message. "That's creative history writing." She never knew I could sign, I said, my voice tight. We never discussed it in any review. Classic Jessica move, Marcus muttered, taking credit for something that fell in her lap. Before I could decide how to respond, my desk phone rang. It was Michael Chen from Gallaudet, calling through our main line rather than going through the proper channels. He was looking for clarification on some technical points from yesterday's meeting and wanted to speak directly with me. I'm sorry, I should direct you to our technical team, I said, aware that bypassing protocols could create problems. I'd prefer to work with someone who understands both the technology and can communicate directly with me, Michael replied through the relay service. Your understanding of both worlds made the discussion much clearer. Conflicted but wanting to be helpful, I answered his questions as best I could, promising to follow up with our technical team for more detailed information. After the call, I immediately emailed David Lin to inform him of the conversation, copying Jessica as required by protocol. Within minutes, Jessica appeared at my desk, her expression stern. Amber, can I see you in my office? Once inside her small office, she closed the door firmly. Did you just engage in a technical discussion with a potential partner without authorization? Michael Chen called with questions. I answered what I could and told him I'd connect him with the technical team for details, I explained. All partner communications should go through proper channels, she said sharply. You're not authorized to discuss technical matters with partners. I was just trying to be helpful, I said. And speaking of proper procedures, I noticed your email about discovering my ASL skills during reviews. Jessica's expression hardened. Is there a problem? We never discussed my sign language abilities in any review, I said, trying to keep my voice level. You didn't know I could sign until you saw me with Michael Chen. I think you're misremembering our conversations, Jessica said dismissively. Regardless, the point is that we recognized and utilized your talent when needed. By we, do you mean you? Because Hammond requested me after seeing me sign with Michael directly, I pressed. Jessica's professional mask slipped for a moment, revealing genuine anger. I'm your supervisor, Amber. Part of my job is identifying and developing talent on my team. The executive team doesn't need to know every detail of how that happens. Before I could respond, Jessica's phone rang. She answered, listened briefly, then said, yes, she's with me now. We'll be right there. Hanging up, she stood. Mark Williams wants to see us both. Mark Williams was the head of human resources, and being summoned to his office was rarely a positive experience. As we walked, Jessica maintained a stony silence. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. In Mark's office, we found not only Mark but also David Lin, our CTO. Neither looked particularly happy. Jessica, Amber, thank you for coming, Mark began formally. We need to discuss a situation that's arisen regarding the Gallaudet partnership. David Lin spoke next. Michael Chen contacted me directly after speaking with Amber. He's requesting that Amber be assigned as the primary communication liaison for the implementation phase of our partnership, citing her unique combination of technical comprehension and ASL fluency. Jessica immediately jumped in. That's completely outside Amber's job description and qualifications. She's an administrative assistant without technical training. Actually, I corrected automatically. I have a communications degree, not administrative training. Mark raised an eyebrow. Regardless, this request raises several concerns. Amber isn't part of our technical team, hasn't been through the proper partner communication training, and frankly, we need to consider whether her sign language abilities are sufficient for such a technical role. I felt my face flush. What do you mean by sufficient? I interpreted successfully for 2 high-level meetings. In an emergency situation, Mark clarified. But for an ongoing role, we need to consider proper qualifications. Are you actually certified as an interpreter? No, I admitted, but I'm fluent and, this is exactly my concern, Jessica interrupted. Amber did well in a pinch, but we can't risk misunderstandings in a major partnership by using someone without proper certification. The implication was clear. They were worried I had exaggerated my abilities and might damage the partnership. The irony of Jessica questioning my honesty after her fabricated email was almost too much to bear. David Lin looked thoughtful. Michael seemed quite impressed with her abilities. With all due respect, Jessica countered. Mr. Chen isn't in a position to evaluate her accuracy since he can't hear what she's saying to us. I stared at her, shocked by the thinly veiled suggestion that I could have been mistranslating without Michael knowing. I would never misrepresent what someone was saying, I said firmly. That would be completely unethical. No one is suggesting that, Mark said, though his tone indicated otherwise. We're simply discussing proper protocols and qualifications. For now, please direct any further communications from Gallaudet to the appropriate department. As we left the meeting, I felt a crushing weight of disappointment. My brief moment of recognition was being systematically dismantled. Back at reception, I tried to focus on my regular duties, but my mind kept returning to the unfairness of the situation. Later that afternoon, an email arrived from HR requesting a documentation of skills meeting the following day. The message mentioned clarifying actual experience levels and ensuring proper representation of qualifications to partners. By the end of the day, I was emotionally drained. In the women's restroom, I finally broke down, leaning against the sink as tears of frustration welled in my eyes. The door opened and Dana from marketing walked in, immediately noticing my distress. "Amber, what's wrong?" Something about her genuine concern broke the dam. The whole story came pouring out: my brief moment in the spotlight, Jessica's credit-taking, and now the suggestion that I might have misrepresented my abilities. "It's just so unfair," I finished, wiping my eyes. "For years I've been just the receptionist, and the one time I get to use a skill I'm actually good at, they're acting like I'm trying to overstep or misrepresent myself." Dana handed me a tissue. "Office politics are brutal," she said sympathetically. "But for what it's worth, everyone I've talked to is impressed by what you did. And from what I heard, the Gallaudet people specifically praised your Thanks," I said, attempting to repair my makeup. "I just don't know if I can keep doing this sitting at that desk, watching opportunities pass by, dealing with people like Jessica who'll step on anyone to get ahead." "So what are you going to do?" Dana asked quietly. I took a deep breath. "I honestly don't know. Part of me wants to walk out right now. But another part what? Another part wants to stand my ground," I finished. "I didn't do anything wrong. I have a skill that helped the company, and I shouldn't let them make me feel small for it." Dana smiled approvingly. "That's the spirit. And for what it's worth, I think you should talk to Hammond directly." From what I heard, he was genuinely impressed. I shook my head. "People like me don't just talk to the CEO." "Maybe not normally," Dana conceded. "But these aren't normal circumstances, are they?" As I headed home that evening, her words kept repeating in my mind. These weren't normal circumstances, and maybe it was time for me to stop following the normal rules that had kept me stuck for 3 years. The next morning, I arrived early, determined to face whatever the day would bring. The HR meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m., giving me plenty of time to prepare my thoughts and documentation of my ASL experience. At 9:15 a.m., an email notification appeared on my screen with a subject line that made my heart skip. "Meeting request. Richard Hammond, CO." The brief message read, "Miss Michelle, I'd like to speak with you regarding the Gallaudet partnership and your potential role moving forward. Please come to my office today at 11 a.m. Richard Hammond Chief Executive Officer My hands trembled slightly as I typed my acceptance of the meeting. A direct summons to Hammond's office was unprecedented for someone at my level. Was this good news, or was I about to be reprimanded for overstepping? The next 2 hours crawled by as I alternated between hope and anxiety. At 10:55, I handed off reception duties to the part-time assistant and made my way to the executive floor. Hammond's office occupied the corner of the top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. His assistant Diane showed me in without waiting and closed the door behind me. Hammond was standing by the window, looking out at the skyline. He turned as I entered, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "Miss Misha, thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." As I sat down, I noticed something unexpected on his desk: a framed photograph of a young woman I didn't recognize. "I understand there's been some confusion regarding your involvement with the Gallaudet partnership," Hammond began, his voice measured and direct. Yes, sir, I replied, deciding honesty was my best approach. I'm not entirely clear on what my role should be going forward. Hammond nodded thoughtfully. Before we address that, I'd like to ask you something. When you interpreted for Michael Chen, how much of the technical content did you understand personally, versus simply translating words you might not have comprehended? The question surprised me. I understood most of it, sir. My degree is in communications, but I've always had an interest in technology. Working here for 3 years, I've picked up quite a bit, especially about our platform. There were some specialized terms I hadn't encountered before, but I made sure to clarify those with Mr. Chen rather than guess. Hammond studied me for a moment. That's consistent with what Michael told me. He was quite impressed with your technical understanding, not just your signing ability. He leaned back in his chair. Are you aware that Michael has specifically requested you as the communication liaison for this partnership? I heard that was discussed, but I was told it wouldn't be appropriate given my position and lack of certification, I replied carefully. A flicker of something annoyance perhaps crossed Hammond's face. Yes, I've read the HR report on yesterday's meeting, he paused. Miss Michelle, are you familiar with my accessibility initiative for Horizon? Only generally, sir. I know it's a priority for the company moving forward. Hammond nodded and then surprised me by turning the framed photograph on his desk toward me. It showed a young woman with Hammond's eyes and smile. This is my sister, Rebecca. She lost her hearing when she was 12 due to meningitis. I watched my parents struggle to learn sign language while Rebecca adapted to a world that suddenly seemed designed to exclude her. His voice carried an emotional weight I'd never associated with our usually stoic CEO. That experience has informed much of my thinking about technology and accessibility. When I announced our accessibility initiative last quarter, it wasn't just a business decision, it was personal. He turned the photo back around. Which brings me to our current situation. I observed your interaction with Michael Chen in the lobby not by accident, but because I make a point of greeting important visitors personally. I was impressed not just by your signing ability, but by the natural connection you established. That's something we can't train. Hammond leaned forward. I've spoken extensively with Michael over the past 2 days. He believes your combination of signing fluency, technical comprehension, and communication skills would make you an ideal liaison for this partnership. Thank you, sir, I said, genuinely touched by the vote of confidence. But I'm not sure everyone shares that view. Hammond's expression hardened slightly. I'm aware of the concerns raised by HR and your direct supervisor. I'm also aware of certain misrepresentations regarding how your skills were discovered and developed. I remained silent, unsure how to respond. Miss Michelle, I value honesty and authenticity above most other qualities in my employees. I'd rather someone admit what they don't know than pretend expertise they lack. He paused. The email suggesting your signing abilities had been previously identified and cultivated by management was inaccurate, wasn't it? Put directly on the spot by the CEO, I took a deep breath. Yes, sir. No one at Horizon knew I could sign until I greeted Mr. Chen. It wasn't something that came up in regular work conversations. Hammond nodded, as if confirming something he already knew. That's what I suspected. And yet you didn't publicly contradict the narrative. I didn't think it would be productive, I said carefully. A hint of a smile touched Hammond's lips. Diplomatically put. Miss Michelle, I believe in putting people in positions where their unique skills can benefit the company. Sometimes that means creating entirely new positions. He slid a folder across the desk toward me. This is a job description for a new role, Accessibility Coordinator for Horizon Technologies. The position would report directly to the Chief Product Officer and would serve as the primary liaison for the Gallaudet partnership, while also contributing to our broader accessibility initiative. I opened the folder with trembling hands, scanning the job description, a role that perfectly blended communication skills, ASL fluency, and technical understanding, with a salary nearly double my current compensation. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it, Hammond replied. The position is yours if you want it. You've demonstrated exactly the skills and character we need for this role. Your experience with your cousin gives you insight into the challenges faced by deaf individuals that can't be learned from a textbook. I nodded, emotion threatening to overwhelm me. I would be honored to accept. Excellent. Hammond stowed, signaling the meeting was concluding. HR will provide the formal offer later today. You'll need to train your replacement at reception, of course, but I'd like you to start transitioning to your new role immediately. The Gallaudet team is eager to work with you. As I rose to leave, Hammond added, "One more thing, Miss Misha. Regarding Jessica Barrett's creative interpretation of events." I tensed slightly. I don't tolerate dishonesty, especially when it's designed to take credit for others' contributions, he said firmly. Rest assured, that situation will be addressed appropriately. Thank you, sir, I said simply. No need for thanks. At Horizon, we reward merit and integrity. I look forward to seeing your contributions in your new role. As I walked back to my desk, I felt as though I was floating. The HR meeting scheduled for later was cancelled without explanation. By the end of the day, I had a formal offer letter and a new email signature. Amber Michel, Accessibility Coordinator. The following weeks brought rapid changes. Jessica was notably subdued after a closed-door meeting with Hammond and HR, and she avoided direct interaction with me as I trained my replacement. I later learned she had been placed on a performance improvement plan for ethical concerns regarding team management and communication. Michael Chen became a regular contact, and our work together on integrating Gallaudet's technology into Horizon's platforms progressed rapidly. With Hammond's support, I established an ASL training program for interested Horizon employees, creating a more inclusive environment for deaf visitors and potential future employees. Looking back now, I'm struck by how a single moment choosing to sign to a visitor changed everything. It wasn't just about being in the right place at the right time. It was about having the courage to use a skill that wasn't in my job description, to be authentically myself even in a corporate environment that often rewards conformity. I've learned that our true skills and passions often find a way to surface, sometimes when we least expect it. I've also learned that standing up for yourself respectfully but firmly is essential, even when facing those with more authority or power. Most importantly, I've discovered that being your authentic self is the greatest professional asset you can have. No amount of resume padding or networking can replace the power of genuine expertise and passion. So I'm curious, have you ever had a hidden skill or passion that unexpectedly changed your life? Share your story in the comments below. And if you found value in my experience, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about navigating the complex world of careers and professional growth. Remember, sometimes your greatest opportunity is hiding in plain sight, just waiting for the right moment to be seen. Thank you for listening to my story. May you find the courage to share your own unique gifts with the world, especially when no one expects them from you.